Welcome to Macro Magic. I'm Sherry Damaris, and with me today is Birgit Leuders. And she's been on our show a couple times. She comes with so much knowledge in healing. She's a master iridologist, a wellness coach. She's just recently won a 2021 award from the Business Association in Paoli, Pennsylvania, for all her work in the community. And she's also featured in a book, which is a bestseller, and going to write another. You're going to be featured in a second book, right?
Yeah, so it's actually my third book. It's all what happened with pandemic. When we were locked down, I started writing.
My gosh.
So the third book that's actually coming out in December is called 25 Tools for the Goddess.
Wow. And today I wanted to have her on the show. We were going to talk about fertility and problems with women trying to have children, which is becoming more and more common.
Yeah, and especially for me, for being in a practice for 20 years, and I can see most likely women search for an herbalist because they are more intrigued to find different answers as they get. So due to that I have a high amount of female clients, I deal more with fertility as well, not just with menopause, but fertility and infertility especially.
And this is something I didn't know that you were even involved with until we started talking the other day. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so important right now in our time. And before we went on camera, we were talking about how women's condition is actually mirroring the condition of the planet Earth. Yeah. Right now, and I found that fascinating.
Yeah. And that's why I kind of had the desire to create my own system, and I call it the fertility method. And it came just because of years and years working with my clients, female clients, to bring back harmony. And so in this case, fertility is just really the reflection of the harmony within our bodies, because fertility is something that happens naturally. It's almost like saying, I have to think about now exhaling and inhaling. Fertility, like getting pregnant, should happen naturally, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why most of the time we're trying to prevent it when we're too young. So then when it is a natural process, then why is it not working? And there's so much debate over estrogen too low, high, progesterone too low, too high. And then unfortunately, the medical world doesn't know how to treat it properly, so in this case, they go for blood tests, right? But unfortunately, every month, we're in a different mood. Females are in different moods, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why I brought the first picture, actually, to the TV interview today. And if you could show that, please, that would be great, because that's exactly how I created my fertility method. That's
we
it.
have a cat screaming.
That's it. That was the original thought from my fertility method, because the reproductive screams out loud, not being in harmony. So then we go with all our herbs, even herbs, or with our medical intervention into the reproductive system. And I found out it's never really the reproductive system, ever. It's an imbalance within our body, right? And the imbalance can come from the spiritual, the emotional, or the physical. And once we can identify this imbalance, then we can bring back harmony. And when harmony is put together in a female body, then pregnancy is the result. So my fertility method is nothing else as empowering women to take care of their own body, to get it so nourished, so fertile, that at the end, pregnancy happens. And when I work with clients, they feel like they're not in the driver's seat when infertility happens, right? So you go to the doctor and they send you to a fertility clinic, and once you're in this pipeline of fertility clinics, you can't get out. Like, you go to estrogen shots, progesterone, IVFs, IUIs. It's not that I'm against it, but we need to first bring harmony and then maybe use it later. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. So that's why I brought my second picture for the audience today, because that is really where imbalance happens, is that we have to talk about that big elephant in a room. I think that's the saying in English, right? The elephant is called cortisol. And you're probably familiar with cortisol working in your microbiotic diet, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So cortisol is when we're stressed out, like I was stressed out today to get here on time, right? So I think I kicked into cortisol gear. Because I'm like, oh, it's Monday morning, it's traffic, right? You jump out of bed. And so it's good to have cortisol because it gets you going, gets you excited.
It's like the fight or flight.
Yes. But when you have it all the time, 24/7, then there's never calmness. So to explain to the people on watching the show is there's sympathetic nervous system and a parasympathetic nervous system, right? The sympathetic nervous system is also called fight and flight system, right? So that's what I was in, to come here on time and be ready to go. Then there's the parasympathetic nervous system, right? The automatic nervous system, and that's also called rest and digest system. Once we're talking about rest and digest system, that's something we do automatically. And we all know in our own life that resting and digesting has not always happened really good.
Yeah, we actually had Ginny Harper on the other day talking about digestive orders, and cortisol was the main factor. The stress and the tension and not relaxation, definitely stops the digestive tract.
Exactly. So now when we're in this field then, and we're going back to my fertility method, if there has been a period of time where the woman was so stressed that the digestion didn't happen anymore, right? Then of course the body is not imbalanced nutritional wise, but also imbalance of having too much cortisol flooding around in the body system. And there's a research from the Medical Institute that I was reading about. What really happens is when we kick into cortisol, then the first thing that happens is the hypothalamus lowers our libido. So now we're not even in the mood anymore. This is it. And yeah, guys, we are not always in the mood.
And a box of chocolates will not help.
Yes, exactly. The hypothalamus creates that right away, no desire. And then the pituitary gland gets the message to reduce the FSH production, which tells the ovulation should happen, right? So now can happen now that a whole cycle goes by and there was never an ovulation. And that's why I call it the cortisol is the ovulation killer.
Wow.
It's like the stress hormone. So what can we do? I mean, that gives a lot of things we can do, especially you see with my wellness coaching price, and many things are there, but nobody actually gets informed when they're in the fertility clinics about it, how important it is. I think acupuncture is already important for people. I know a lot of people, but again, that's more passive.
Right.
You're laying down and somebody puts the care on you. But there's so much we can do as women to prepare our body from infertility to fertility. And so I feel like it's empowering my clients that I work with because they get so much homework. So then you feel like, hey, I'm in control, right? Because that's really what it is. Because there's a lot of emotions going on. So cortisol can also cause habit when you have a lot of miscarriages. So now you're stressed out of not getting pregnant. So now we're in another cycle. Like now I call it, I told you before we came on air, I call it the post-traumatic infertility syndrome. And I swear it exists, and it's just as hard as the PTSD syndrome. It is existing, and we need to address it. Once a woman had her miscarriage, it is devastating, and it doesn't matter how many weeks or how many days passed after her period when we believe and had the feeling and we knew from a pregnancy test we're pregnant. It is traumatic. It is emotionally traumatic, and there should be more support, which actually happens in, I think, Finland or Sweden, gives women off from work for 10 weeks after miscarriage.
To rest. I know even in macrobiotics, they say after you have a baby, you need to stay in bed. And the Japanese people, they would crawl on their hands and knees for a while. They wouldn't even stand up because that hara energy is gets so weakened after the birth, and then afterwards, healing that energy is really important.
I would have liked that. I wish you would have told me that. Then I would have been laying in bed and get taken care of 24/7. And I wouldn't have minded at all.
Yeah, people are back up to work immediately, and that plays havoc on the body. The body has to heal.
Exactly.
after the birth process.
Because I'm part of this book, 25 Tools for the Goddess, the new book, I kind of got more involved with this whole like cycle of the women being attached to the cycle of the earth, right? And it's literally proven that the moon cycle is like 29 to 30 days, and a woman's cycle is 25 to 30 days. And most women actually have their cycle at full moon, right? So I thought that was very interesting, and I'm a believer there's no coincidence to that.
Absolutely. In macrobiotic counseling, that's one of the questions on the questionnaire. We ask women, is your cycle regular and is it following the moon? And you can do a lot of diagnosis in macrobiotics, just finding that information out.
Nice. See, and that's exactly where I'm going into, that we are attached and connected to Earth, to the immune system, to the astrology, and that's why we women do go for PMS. But PMS should be seen as positive, I see. When I've really got into this research, PMS is nothing else as us expressing our feelings that we suppressed for 20, 30 days. And that's why at the end, we start crying and yelling and, cursing. And I don't know what your woman does if you watch as a man, but we do some sort of things like that. And unfortunately nowadays, the cycle for young women is that they take birth control pills that even inhibits the cycle. So they teach young kids now that it's not good to have a period, that it's actually, let's just keep a pill where you don't ever have to deal with this. And I feel that's sad, because in a way, that's how we cleanse. But where I'm getting with this is that in old times, it was called red tent. Did you hear about that?
No.
There was a time where women, when we were getting close to the PMS and it was time that our cycle is kicking in, we were moving into a tent with all the other women who had the period at the same time. And that's why it's called red tent. There was even a movie made, I think, like about that concept. And I like that concept, because then we can sit together and bash about our life and talk bad.
Discharge.
Yes, and then we come out all happy, and maybe marriages would have been saved. So,
natural therapy.
Yeah, exactly. So the next thing that I'm going to talk about the fertility method is that because we're connected to the earth, we're also as malnourished as earth. And so I thought we could talk maybe about.
Yeah, and surprisingly, as you know, because we're doing the documentary on gardening and growing rice in the New England states, we're finding the soil is so depleted. In order to have healthy plants, you need great sunshine, clean rain, and then healthy soil. And we're finding more and more the soil is being demineralized from all the chemical sprays they're spraying on plants now, even on grasses, and they're seeping into other farms that aren't spraying. So yeah, it's a huge issue.
That's why I'm saying, why don't we see that connection then in my field, the fertility method? Like, we're talking about something growing, right? So I know most people then take prenatal vitamins, right? That's being described from, and that gives them the saying okay, that's it. That's all what I can do, right? Fertility is taken care of because I take my prenatals. But I think you have Colleen Campbell on it, right? And he once said in one of his talks in Penn University that there are vitamins and minerals or trace minerals that we don't even have a name on it yet. Did you hear that from him? So if we don't have a name, then it's definitely not in the prenatal pills. What do you think?
Absolutely. And he was talking about when you eat a whole food, it's an orchestra. Everything works with everything else, and when you're taking supplements, we're sort of minus that. So a lot of supplements aren't absorbed in the body, and if they are, they're not doing very much help, because you need the whole plant-based food.
Exactly.
And that's the best.
Yes, and this is why I'm always telling my clients, this is where you can start, and this is where you have control over. Like in Sweden, they did a research where they found out that the vegetables have a 57% less zinc. And zinc is for the immune system and for the fertility of the males, right? So, and that is only one trace minerals that they were testing. Then they were testing many more, and they found out that over the 3 decades of 8 years, we have less and less trace minerals and vitamins and minerals in our fruits and vegetables.
Our vegetables, yeah. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, you're going to find us in the kitchen, and Birgit's going to show us some really great remedies to help women when they're facing infertility.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Boardwalks built for fun. Legendary rock and roll clubs.
This is how we do it.
Casinos by the ocean. Now that's New Jersey. 130 miles of beautiful beaches. Solid rock. And everything in between.
Look in the window.
Now that's New Jersey. Plan your New Jersey trip at visitnj.org. Waves of fun. Nights of excitement. And a trail of memories. Now that's New Jersey.
This plus this equals this plus this and this. Don't drink and drive.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Boardwalks built for fun. Legendary rock and roll clubs.
This is how we do it. Hippity hop.
Casinos by the ocean.
Hippity hop.
Now that's New Jersey. 130 miles of beautiful beaches, solid rock, and everything in between.
Look in the window.
Now that's New Jersey. Plan your New Jersey trip at visitnj.org. Waves of fun.
Hi, welcome back. I'm Sherry Damaris, and I'm with Birgit Leuders. She is an iridologist and a wellness coach, and we've been talking about fertility issues in our newsroom. And we're back in the kitchen, and Birgit's going to show us a remedy. Actually, I just found out she sells these Birgit blend teas on her website,
Yeah.
right? It's amazing.
When I studied as an herbalist, came to America, I used certain herbs that didn't have any access to. So I can still remember a few new clients, and I was like, oh, just go to the market and get some oat straw, nettle, dandelion, raspberry leaves, and they're like, what? And I'm like, okay. So then the next day I was searching around in stores and I couldn't find it, and I'm like, I guess I'm start making teas. That's how it started. That's how it is.
Wow.
And so then I didn't know what a name. I'm like, okay, I'll just call it Birgit Blend because that's really what it is.
I love it. I love the name. And this tea is especially good for fertility, correct?
So it's for fertility because that's when the body's depleted the most, especially when we go for fertility treatments or we have that stress, we talked about it. So we need something that has low calories, but a punch of nutrients and vitamins and minerals. And we were talking before we went to the commercial break that the soil is depleted, but you know what's not depleted, which is the funniest thing? Our weeds. So that's why we're spraying them off everywhere for the staircase, or if you have a garden like me and then you forget to take care of it for a week and everything else grows, just not your produce, it's the weeds, right? So that's why my Birgit blend is actually more having the weeds in there, like nettle and dandelion, right? Those are the things that people usually don't even know what to do with it. And they have the highest form of vitamins, minerals, because they're not dependent on the soil.
Well, I know nettles, many people in macrobiotics drink nettle tea because of the great properties, especially for women.
Especially, exactly. And then think about what is the next thing that happened from our pollution on Earth is that we have more and more allergies, right? Skin allergies, asthma. Children have asthma the moment they're born, right? Peanut allergy. And nettle reduces your histamine production. Right?
Nice.
So if we're already talking about the herbs a little bit, then let's get started right away with the nettle. So all what would you do, you could actually take it from here or just take a spoonful. And making a tea cold infusion is very simple. There's no measuring. You just put a spoonful in a mason jar from this one. That's like the nettle. We're talking right now about it. And nettle is also known in the herbal world as the highest form of mineral vitamin water, and we know there are some products out there that gives you this understanding that you should enhance your water with minerals. That is exactly what nettle does. So there's also one saying from a guru of mine in the herbalist world: in doubt, just give nettle. Like any kind of issue with the client, just give nettle, like you said with Ayurveda. Then the next one here, if you do that one, that is dandelion. It looks
So
like
this is dried dandelion root or leaves?
Leaves.
Okay.
And sometimes mixed with root, yeah, but here's the leaves, because they give a little bit of a sweeter taste when you soak them for longer, right? So dandelion, you probably know as well, dandelion is great for the pancreas. And another issue that our foods are too sweet now, everything has fructose corn syrup in there. Even if you go and buy pasta, I've just noticed, has sugar in there, right? Oh. So our pancreas is overworking, and so dandelion helps for that.
Oh, nice. I drink dandelion root tea, but I didn't know about the leaves.
Yes.
That's interesting.
So, and dandelion, so again, it's one of the other ingredients. In doubt, take dandelion. So that's why I created the everyday tea, because I'm like, okay, if I don't figure out exactly what the client has or how to help, let's give the power to the herbs.
Oh,
right?
nice. The minerals.
And then the
Nice
next one,
minerals.
this is one of my favorite. Look how it looks. It looks sometimes even a little bit moldy, which is the funniest thing. Some clients open my blend and they're like, this looks like mold. See that? Isn't it? That's called raspberry leaves.
Oh, really?
And raspberry leaves are amazing for the astringent, the toning of your reproductive system. But why it's good for everybody, not just for females, is because it has a high ingredients, again, for the nourishment of the whole body.
Nice.
And also what it does extra is it takes care of xenoestrogen. You know, xenoestrogen comes from all the plastic we have in our food. You know, when you microwave the food, and when you have all those like PPA cans, right? Those are all those chemicals they're seeping into our food, and raspberry leaves can help it to kind of
I heard even when you get receipts, that Neil Barnard was on our show. He was talking about when people put their hands on receipts, that affects the hormone levels.
It's good that this stops now, right? Nowadays they
Yeah.
ask if you want the receipt.
I know.
Like, so, and the next one that I have in this Birgit blend is this one. This looks really nice, and when you smell it, I think you can tell that it's like a harvest, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because it's
Smells like
oat.
hay.
Yeah, and it's oat straw. So oat straw, as we know with oatmeal, right? Oatmeal is good for your heart, right? And we talked about stress. So oatmeal is calming, right? I mean, oat grass, the oats is calming, right? So it's now the stalk, not the seeds, right? So that's why
It's
I put
a
it in.
stalk of oats. Okay.
So that's why I put it in my blend, because I know we all need to just take it easy. Yeah.
Well, we talked earlier at the news desk about cortisol and how once your cortisol levels go up in so many different ways. I mean, women in the workforce,
Yes.
the pressure, the time, having
Yes.
your cell phone on, all those things are
I know.
boosting up your cortisol and then you know, really affecting your fertility.
And that's why oat straw is really amazing. It also has high selenium, high amounts of minerals in there. And it tastes good too. So, but that's not all. Now I'm going to folklore herbalism. So what we do with this, like you just mix it around, and then I'll help you because we just put hot water on it. And to make an infusion, it means literally infuse your herbs. So it's not like a little tea bag. It's literally like we just pouring hot water on it. That's how it is. And we didn't measure anything. We just took a teaspoon, like a tablespoon, and are filling it all the way up. Then you can stir it up one more time, so you mix a little bit the things
Witch's
in.
brew.
Yes.
Happy
and
Halloween.
I know, that was good that you called me. Because here comes the next witch kind of idea. After this, now I make it usually in the evenings, because before then I know when I get up in the morning I can infuse it for 7-8 hours. So when you sleep, so you should do an average infusion for 4 up to 8 hours. So now it's kind of like a tea, and now you have to wait for 4 hours. So like kind of like a little impatient. That's why I make it in the evening. But there's also another belief in this infusion of herbs, that if you would put the hot water on it, and then put the lid on it, and then you put it on the window where the moonlight could infuse the properties of the
Oh,
herbs.
wow. I've heard sun tea, but never moon
Yes,
tea.
so you would put that in a window. That's how it was made, done long century ago. And then you let it sit
That
and
makes
soak.
sense because you follow the cycle with
Yes.
your menstruation. So why not put the tea out in the
Exactly.
moonlight?
And did you know that a great supplement for fertility is also evening primrose oil? Evening primrose oil is the only rose that opens up its petal in the moonlight.
Oh my gosh,
Did
that's
you know that?
beautiful.
Exactly. That's why we put them in the moonlight.
Oh my gosh.
And this is just like the pre-made one that I made last night before I came. That's how dark it looks. So what I do then, I sieve out the herbs, so you get rid of them then, and then you can store it in the refrigerator for 3 days. And then you can just put a little bit in there and always put a little bit more hot water on it or like a lemon.
Because
So
it's
like,
an infusion, so you just add a little bit.
exactly, it's
Okay.
concentrated, so we can try ours now, right?
The tea. Well, Birgit, we got to wrap things up.
Mm-hmm.
So how can people order your teas, learn more about your iridology, your wellness practice? We had you on Healing with Sound and Color.
Yes.
How can people get in touch with you if they want?
For my wellness program and coaching for clients with herbs is birgitcare.com, so that's my practice. And then for my fertility method right now, I actually have a fertilitymethod.com website where people have access to a free masterclass. So I want to give it for free to women so they learn how to nourish their bodies on their own, and then they can always take any kind of path they want, either be patient to get pregnant or go the route with fertility clinics, but at least they know how to take care of themselves and how to be proactive during the waiting time. Because waiting can make you feel so stressed out, and then we're exactly in the...
Yeah, and if nothing else, you have some nice soothing tea,
Yes.
and you get to relax and de-stress from your job.
Exactly.
And that all helps too.
Did you like it?
Yes, I loved it. Thank you so much for joining us on Macro Magic. And Birgit, I know we're going to see you again with,
follow some other
with your
ideas.
next project coming up around the pike. Thank you so much for coming. And everyone, make sure to tune into our next episodes of Macro